Hi everyone, it's a delight to be here, a real honour, and I do love to be having an excuse to be here in New York with you, and especially at a conference like this that's so special and so full of interesting ideas. I'm reliably informed by a poll I took at a bar the other night, a French guy and an American girl, that most people think of Australia as a place where there's kangaroos, blonde people, deserts, and Crocodile Dundee. And the thing is, there's a few other things happening there as well. What you might not know is that we have a really vibrant startup community. And as a marketer, a technologist and an educator, I've been heavily involved in that community as it's grown over the last few years. And strangely enough, Twitter has been an enormously important part of the growth of that startup and entrepreneurial community. And in recent times, we've started up something called Social Innovation Sydney. And it has its origins in this notion of where change makers meet. I've been feeling for a number of years that capitalism as we do it is a bit broken, and that innovations are not always being done for both social good as well as for profit. And I started off with a question about, with all the big challenges facing us in the world today, what can one or two people do to make a difference? There's a lot of people doing very big things, but what are the few small things that I can do at my local level to make a difference? And I was talking with a girlfriend about it. Michelle, my co-founder for Social Innovation Sydney, and me, and we decided that we would be inspired by the unconference models used in the geek community, bar camps and the like. And what we would do is create a place where people who wanted to make innovation for social good as well as for profit could come together, create community, get to know each other. And so we took our crazy idea and just did it. And it was late last year, and so far we've had 7 events now. Each of those have had between 100 and 200 people attend. Our mailing list is growing. And what happens with these events is that we organise them through Twitter. We don't have an advertising budget. We tell people they're on, and on the day they self-organise. There is no set agenda like Jeff's so kind to organise for us here. People turn up on the day, and it is participant-driven, facilitated conversations. So if you've got a bee in your bonnet and you want to talk about a social innovation idea that you have, an idea for sustainability, environment, whatever, you can create a conversation. And the idea is that, unlike a traditional conference where it's very much the speaker at the front of the room and the audience might be engaging through Twitter or some other back channel, there everybody's a participant. And it really is fascinating how many ideas that we see come out of this process and the community that we're building. We're now having people who are not on Twitter turning up. So at one event we had 80% of the people not on Twitter. Now, since we only advertise on Twitter, we don't know how they got there, but they're all on our mailing list now because we captured them. Don't let them escape. And a lot of people ask me how we fund this. And because we're not actually trying to run this startup to make money, we're trying to facilitate community and bring change makers together, we actually crowdfund. So what we do is put it out to the community and say, we want to run an event, this is how much it will cost, can you help us? And every time the community puts in, people put in what they can afford, and we get the event together. And we're really changing the model too, where people give what they can afford and feel that they want to, so rather than charging a set amount. And Possible is an Australian startup that we're using to do our crowdfunding, and they've been great. We've also acquired some sponsors along the way who've been very helpful. Ninefold are a cloud startup in Australia, Cisco, University of New South Wales, one of our major universities, and the Australian Social Innovation Exchange. What's really important about this is that one of the things that's very important about innovation is the government and big corporations aren't going to do it for us. The kind of social good and innovation that we need to create better society is not going to get given down from on high. It's going to come up from the grassroots, and it's going to need to be nurtured. And what we're doing is using the Barcamp model to create the conversations, and then we're using the startup camp model where we help people acquire the skills to clarify their ideas, to refine them, and to get them into a shape that they can pitch to a funder, a sponsor, a supporter. So we're trying to take the ideas from just being talk, because how many ideas festivals have you been to or seen lately? There's millions. If we could just capture the hot air from those things, we could fuel the world for years. So we're now taking this model and saying, how do we get the ideas and the people, and how do we use social media to bring them together in real life? Because the real magic happens with ideas when that human-to-human contact starts. It's not just about talking on Twitter and being amusing. It's about that real heart contact where you meet a real person and their ideas resonate with yours and you work together. And that's the magic we're trying to create. And we found it the other day at our startup camp where there were two people who were working on a similar idea for Indigenous communities in outback Australia. Their idea was to have using digital photography for these communities to sell and make money, so that people would get better skills, make money, and then they would also be feeding that into corporates for their activity. So these guys working separately are now aware of each other and able to work together. We're trying to get that kind of magic happening, and catalysing that kind of magic is the real person-to-person contact. And that's the value of events like this, that we're here together, so many of us, and that we're able to make person-to-person contact and resonate with each other. And we've really also now finding that a lot of it is about listening, and the community that we're building up is actually starting to listen to each other and then to riff off the ideas of each other. We're starting to see that happen, and it's happening when we're not organising events. So the community that we've built up around Social Innovation Sydney has taken on a life of its own, and it's now self-organising events. So it's asking us, can we now host this particular film about a particular food issue? And so we are. So the community is now driving itself, and it's self-organising, just like the Barcamp model that we started off with for our original events. But for us, the really big challenge is to take all the talk and all that fun, because I love generating ideas. I'm an ideas person, that's what I do. I come up with ideas, business development and things like that. And the real challenge and the real power of it is when you execute ideas. And for us, how do we take those ideas that they're generating, and there can be a million ideas in a weekend, and then how do you take them, and how do you refine them, and how do you turn them into something real? And this is where we're using our startup camp model, where we actually do a 2-day boot camp thing where they come and they actually run through the whole idea generation, refinement, business model, communication process for their ideas. And we've recently, out of that, had 3 ideas that were commercially viable as social innovations. And recently at AMP, one of our big financial services companies in Australia, we had a pitch fest with the 3 ideas, and they competed for a $1,000 prize donated by Ninefold. And one of the ideas won, and I'll be sharing that on the blog a bit later. But so now we've taken that idea from something that happened as a conversation in a bar camp, it's been refined in the startup camp, and now they're actually starting to go to market with this social innovation. So this idea that's an innovation for both social good and profit. And we need more of this. Our economies are not being resilient enough at the moment, and we're not going to get the top-down support that many of us think we're going to get. We're going to have to do it for ourselves. I really want to encourage people to think, what can I do locally with almost no money to get people together and start generating these innovation ideas? We have so many smart people in the world, and we're not generating as many ideas, and we're not harnessing the power of those ideas because we're not able to see them from the idea to the action and to make them concrete. So we really need to start to think how we do that. And these are just some of the words that people use to describe participating in our events. that they feel connected, that they feel inspired, they feel energised, and that they feel like there's other people like them. We're Social Innovation Sydney. I've been really delighted to share a bit with you today and be delighted to help anyone that's trying to do the same sort of thing anywhere else in the world. And I've got time for a question.
How do you think you take the power of ideas and then translate it into actual action?
How do I think we take the power of ideas and translate it into actual action? That's what we do in the startup camp, is we actually take people through a structured sort of mini MBA process over the 2 days and question their idea, look at its commercial viability, look at how you explain it, and help them to package it up, just the same way you would for a commercial idea in the business world. So I've got a lot of those skills, and so have a lot of my friends. And those disciplines out of the business world are the ones we need to apply to innovation ideas in the social context as well.
Can you tell us a little about what took you so long in your relationship with them?
With whom?
What took you so long, Foundation? I know you guys partnered with them.
I'm not sure. So I'm not sure. Thank you.